What's going on? Where's Joel? He'll be here, don't worry. Nothing happening over the weekend. It was the quietest weekend ever. I didn't see anything to talk about. There's nothing happening this week. But that's not true. We got the CES. We got war. No war, but maybe. War stocks are trading higher. Lots of cool stuff to talk about here. Let's run that intro here, Brent. We got lots of things to go. The volatility right now is really incredible.
Wow, look at that consolidation on the upper right chart.
You know what we've seen this earnings season? Some of these expected moves get even more violent. And this is why I have switched my strategy 10 years ago. And if you're chasing, you're in trouble. The Brentster is here.
Good morning.
Joel is dealing with a flood in his basement. So
No.
he just found this like 1 minute ago. So he's just trying to stop the water from coming in. I'd say there's a flood in the markets, but it's a flood of buying is what is happening in the markets here. Lots of people worried about, the events over the weekend here. What was going to happen? What was going to happen to oil? Obviously, we're talking about Maduro being captured, Venezuela being temporarily, looks like under U.S. control. What was that going to mean for the markets? People were saying, oh, the market's going to crash. Oil's going to get killed. I'll tell you, the reaction in oil, though, Brentster, probably nothing what most people expected, including myself. Because if we look, and let's just maybe bring up the charts, and you can go to oil futures if you want, but the oil futures are actually kind of quiet. It's more so the oil stocks. We do have oil actually trading up on this, which is interesting. So if you're just joining us, and we're getting right into the show here, we're going to get right into the events here. If you were away all weekend and not paying attention to any news whatsoever, here's what's transpired. Is Maduro was captured, I believe it's Friday night, correct? Was this Friday night?
I believe so, yeah.
And obviously brought back into the U.S. This is the president of Venezuela, him and his wife. And we know Venezuela has a lot of oil. Maybe, and it appears even more than the Saudis when we're looking at statistics, the most oil reserves in the world. So nice asset to control. Trump has said that they're going to take some oil. He's also said that it's, he's basically going with that at this moment in time that the U.S. is temporarily looking over Venezuela, but they're going to find other people, or other, people come in and help to run the country while Maduro's gone. It's been, for the most part, looks like, at least on social media, the Venezuelan people seem to be pretty, excited with the change.
Yeah.
Also, there's people saying that's not the case. So I'm not in Venezuela, so I can't comment to, being down there, but I can comment to the videos. And, when you're under control from, same dictatorship of one person, change is sometimes seen as a good thing. So there's so many ramifications here.
Yeah.
I don't even know where to start, but the easiest place to start is with oil. Let's bring up the charts. Joel's going to be here momentarily.
Yeah, we don't have.
We can't change charts. You want me to bring my charts?
Sure. Yeah, sure, if you want. Yeah, and I want to just say Perry Mason in the STN room. Thanks, Perry, saying that that the U.S. is not in charge of Venezuela. The Venezuelan dictatorship remains in power. They only captured Maduro, but the vice president is the new president.
Correct.
Who is a communist. So. Just a little discrepancy there in some of the reports, which is which is fine. That definitely happens, but trying to give you both sides here. Looking at a name while you're
believe it was said, Trump said, as long as they make the right decisions, that they could keep, that they're going to keep control. So it sounded something like that. There's just so much to think about here. And obviously I'm not a politician. I'm not, down in Venezuela to tell you what's happening here, but we can look at the stock specifically here. When Joel gets back, we will. Let me just bring up my other charts temporarily here, because my charts aren't TradeStation is the issue, but I do have TradeStation as well. I'm getting TradeStation because of the sponsorship here, but I can bring up
when Joel gets back, we'll pull up Joel's TradeStation charts and
we'll bring it back. So we're going to save the TradeStation sponsorship here because I don't have control of that here. So a little bit of 2 minutes before the show, a flood comes in Joel's basement. So We're scrambling a little bit here, so bear with us.
So crude oil trading up about $1.60 over the last few hours. I'm looking at crude oil futures trading around 57.94, but some of the stock specific moves were much more pronounced. Like I know you were watching CVX, Dennis. CVX was at one point trading up over 10%.
Yeah.
Has come back now. It's trading up about 6% or so. ExxonMobil trading up about 3% or so. You want to start with Chevron as one?
Start with Chevron.
Yeah.
So these two stocks, Exxon and Chevron, were trading up substantially last night on Robinhood. Reason is that Trump specifically said he was going to allow Exxon and Chevron to go in. Like, go in, get the oil. So direct benefits here, and mentioned by Trump themselves. These were the two companies that were mentioned. Chevron was up as much as 11% last night. I went short on IBKR overnight, which is the same as Robinhood at 172, because I was like, this is way overdone. I have never seen in years a move of up 16 points on Chevron. I covered just before the show started here at 166, so I took points out of that.
Nice
trade. I also
ConocoPhillips
last night because this, and I actually talked about that in the STN room last night too. I went and posted that because I just felt the moves were overdone. I've covered my ConocoPhillips as well. I think I shorted Conoco up 10%. It's only up 5. So it must have been like 106 or 107. So they've come down substantially. You may not even see those trades if you're looking at, and that's the one thing, is if you're looking at any of your servers, you say, what's Denny talking about? It's not even trading up there. Because most of your other service providers don't chart the Robinhood and IBKR overnight session because that's not exchange, that's their own exchange. So the actual exchange opens at 4 a.m. So we're only going to see the 4 a.m. trades in ConocoPhillips. We're only going to see the 4 a.m. trades in Chevron. You won't see where it was trading at 10 o'clock last night.
Sure.
Which was Chevron was up, I think, 17 points. So it kind of felt like just overdone. But there's risk. You don't know what this means. Like, what does this mean for oil stocks in themselves? There's so much things to think about. Like the logic, really says that, hey, if we're going to open up the faucet of Venezuela, that's probably increased the supply, and that probably brings down oil prices. So a lot of people thought oil was going to get killed. That's not the case because, one, to your point, the control is still with Venezuela, and the faucets might not open immediately here. So, and this market is all about, what's happening right now, right in the now, that doesn't price things ahead. Also, there's the increase in geopolitical risk, which we'll get to in a second, which is propping up war stocks this morning and also propping up the oil companies as well. Mr. Elconin is here now. How'd the flood go?
Major crisis averted. Because
the reason stopped the water from coming in.
Yeah, it was actually, I can't blame Lisa because it wasn't a rag in there. Somehow the stopper in the drain sink was perfectly located in the hole. I had to take my shirt off. So you had a sink
on and it just started overflowing and filling the whole damn basement.
Probably where your laundry comes into, right, Joel?
Exactly. Oh yeah. I mean, you can the spout is like this, and it was all bubbly and everything. So I had to peel down. I had to go down there, and then I had to get the squeegee out, and then I had to squeegee the floor. It's still all bubbly. The floors are going to be clean. I'll tell you that though, right now.
So
I don't know how much you guys covered, but two things. Brent and I kind of discussed this
right now. Let's get your lovely trade station charts here up now because we were showing non-trade station charts because I didn't have access to it yet. I'm going to be getting access soon.
Okay.
And then that will never happen again. But we love Trade Station. Here it is. Trade Station charts.
Analyze, customize, all in one platform here. Notice on the left here, my drawing tools, which I will be using a lot more of to make these charts pretty. We'll make pretty charts, right?
I love it.
Love it.
I just can't write. You know what? I think Todd Gordon has this thing. Maybe I'll get some Oculus goggles, and I'll be able to look at the screen, and then it will think about what I want to write, and then it will go on there.
Now we're talking. Now we're talking.
We'll have to get Todd on here.
That product.
I don't know what you guys covered, but the first thing I'll just address what Dennis said. Or Brent, you want to fill me in?
Yeah. Chevron, Exxon, and a little bit. We talked about what happened in Venezuela over the weekend, And now we've just gone into just ramifications for directly oil and Chevron and Exxon because they were specifically mentioned by the president. So
And
those two stocks trading up substantially on that.
And we kind of saved the discussion about what it sort of means for, you know, the rest of the world, where we're going here moving forward, where this could lead. We kind of saved that discussion for you, Joel. So
okay, well, first of all, and Brent, you and I were kind of going back and forth on this last night. This is good for big oil companies, short term and long term. The short term is the disruption of the supply chain, right? So that's good, you know. So that's, you know, good for prices. Be able to, the U.S. companies will be able to supply for long term. If these U.S. oil companies are getting access to Venezuela, are going to be redoing the structure. Cheaper. I mean, you know, there's no way to estimate.
It's cheaper oil.
Yeah.
You know, so if they're going to be in full partnership, let's just say, you know, it's not going to be a controlling situation, but there's going to be a partnership between Venezuela and the U.S. And the U.S. is going to get access to the oil. It's huge. It's huge for the U.S. It's huge because, you know, the U.S. obviously depends on a lot of oil from outsources. Canada, for instance. You know, and let's just talk about this for a second. This is not good for Canada. I'm Canadian. I'll tell you right now, this is not good for Canada whatsoever. And if we go and look this morning at some specific Canadian oil stocks here, Canadian Natural Resources, down 3.64%. You can go into Suncor, which is another one, SU, down 3.38%. Cenovus Energy, CVE, down 4.28%. This is immediately, like, there's some trades that are like, okay, what does this mean? It could go either way. And then there's trades that are a no-doubter. None of this is good for Canadian oil companies. None of it. Because the U.S., I believe the statistics are shocking. I think of Canadian oil exports, so just talking the exports on Canadian, obviously Canada uses some of the oil themselves as well. But of their Canadian exports, it's over 90% goes to the U.S. 9-0. Why? Because it's so efficient, you know, with the pipelines, with, you know, just think about like trying to sell oil if you're Canada, trying to sell oil over to China, or over to, you know, you got to now get it into, you know, oil, you got to get into trucking, into oil tankers, carry it across the sea. I mean, so inefficient to get it there. So it's just so easy to sell to the U.S. So these companies are, you know, going down today and deserved. Like, this is serious crap for the Canadian oil companies. Is it serious crap for Canada overall? It's not great, but probably hits Alberta the most because that's where all the oil. You think about Ontario, lots of other businesses, lots of other stuff happening in Toronto. But I mean, Alberta, bad news for Alberta. This is the most profitable Ontario province. So that's, you know, some trades off of this is like, I would not want to be long those stocks right now. Bank of Nova Scotia will take it farther. Stock not trading down, has a lot of business with oil companies in Alberta. So I know that, you know, just from history. So if you're looking at Canadian banks, which are all seemingly not moving here this morning, the one that has the most exposure to any of this would be Bank of Nova Scotia. So keep that in mind. But Bank of Nova Scotia is everywhere. I mean, they're in the Caribbean, they're there. You know, how much of their business, you know, it's probably, you know, well under 10%. I don't know the numbers, but it's not significant, but it's enough to think about. So that's, you know, some of the thought process coming from the Canadian side. But, you know, from the U.S. side here, you can see like Halliburton, you know, up 7%, Schlumberger up 8%. These were up 14, 15, 16% last night. So they've come off those highs. Valero, you know, your refiners are going to, well, all of a sudden, you know, you get cheaper oil, you know, refining, you know, like, do they have the capabilities? You know, there's people arguing, oh, well, it's dirty oil down in Venezuela. There's, you know, obviously ways that they can figure that out. So Valero trading up, one of your refiners, Marathon Petroleum, MPC. Your other big one is the three. You know, this is when you're doing live show and you're trying to think. Valero, MPC, and who's the other big one? Chad, help me out. Who's the other big one? Marathon, Valero, and Chad's not helping me out fast enough. Okay, anyways, it's the third one too. So
okay,
PSX.
We're going to move on.
I knew somebody in the chat would have.
PSX. Before we move, I mean, you did mention the quality of oil too, you know, that's coming out. So we don't know how much, you know, the fact that, you know, what the whole difference on that. Another thing that Mitch is pointing out is that this is not going to be done overnight. And this is going to take billions of dollars, you know, to do it, to change the infrastructure.
For sure.
So these companies, and last night when we were talking about it, you said these things were up crazy. And I'm like, well, for the people that had this on for a trade, for sure. I mean, if you have some short-term options, or you just picked this thing up a couple days ago, I mean, this is a dream come true.
It's an exponential move. I mean, like we were talking last night, Joel, and I was like, when the hell has Chevron been up 17 points? I can't remember a time. Maybe during the COVID crisis or something like that. But it's been a long, long time since a company as large as Chevron has been up 17 points in one evening. That's why I went short last night at 172. Because I was like, I just feel like this is a bit overdone here. Not saying it's over by any means, but I thought from a scalping perspective, I thought I had a good risk reward, and I made 6 points on it. So also on ConocoPhillips, like I said, I went short that. And I think I can't remember where I shorted. I'd have to go look at my trade history.
I mean, the reactor short and long-term reactions, I don't know about Oxy. We'll have to take a look at that chart. Warren needs something on that. Well, I can't say Warren anymore. Greg needs that. But let's talk about the ramifications here beyond, right? Like, okay, are we one and done here? Or, is this a precedent? I mean, Colombia, Cuba, Mexico, Greenland. I mean, we're talking.
Here's where it gets interesting. So the conversation, Joel, it gets really interesting here. So if it's one and done, I think the markets are fine. I think it's actually a good thing for the U.S. because, obviously, more oil, right? If it's not one and done, if the president has his way, and he is talking very aggressively about Greenland last night, but if he is thinking about playing a real life game of risk, and we cannot comment on what the president is thinking, although he does think out loud a lot of times, but we can just go on what he is saying. So he warned Colombia last night, he warned Cuba, he warned Mexico, and he said, we need Greenland for security. He didn't say about warning them. He said, we need to have Greenland for security. And he said the EU is fine with it. I don't believe that for a second that the EU is fine with it. I think if they go in and take Greenland by force, and this is the if, we don't know that's going to happen. If the US goes in and takes Greenland by force, that changes everything, because you'd all of a sudden be like in complete war with Europe. Is Europe, are we going to be World War III talking about? Probably not. But more so just that Europe's going to cut off doing any business with the U.S. whatsoever if the U.S. goes and takes Greenland by force. So I hope that doesn't happen. I hope he's not really thinking about playing a real life game of risk. I hope it's just, the one and done. One and done, market's fine. One and some, market not so fine. That's where I'm at. And then you have the China and the Russian aspect of it all, which you can go into. If U.S. starts playing a real life game of risk over here, and taking over Cuba, taking over Greenland, trying to, take control of Mexico or something like that. What's China saying on Taiwan? They're going to play real life game of risk over there. We're going to play real life game of risk over here. World War III starts if China invades Taiwan. That's when it starts. So we're hoping that doesn't happen. We're hoping that's not going to be the case. But that would be World War III if China invades Taiwan. So anything that makes it easier for them to justify doing that is a little bit scary. Is the Venezuela situation make China go and take over Taiwan tomorrow? Definitely not. But if the real life game of risk starts getting played, which is kind of what Trump is talking about here, which is scary, then everything changes. So, and again, we're not political. We just know trades. So we're looking at trades. So, I bought AVAV last week. There's your drone war stock. So if you think it's going to continue to escalate, you're going to be long war stocks. You're going to want to be long war stocks. I know RTX is trading down here this morning. It was up 6 points last night. RTX gets downgraded this morning by somebody, trying to figure out who it is. UBS. It's a brutal downgrade at a brutal time. I think I would be actually long RTX. So I actually considered it in my acronym. So, your war stocks is a pile of them. You can think Palantir. You can think AVAV, drones, KTOS, drones. You can think your classics, Lockheed Martin, General Dynamics, NOC. You've got HII. I mean, there's a pile of them out there to think about. So, and RTX is one of them as well. So this is all just speculative. But this morning, we can see that war stocks are catching a bid. AVAV trading up 4%. KTOS trading up 4.2%. Palantir trading up 3.4%. That's because of the Venezuela situation. So the market is pricing in a little more risk that this could continue to escalate.
Let me just throw a little bit of caution here on the war stocks here. Was there much of a war? I mean, we basically, walked in there. I mean, it was a, well-planned operation and everything, but, it was kind of a lopsided war. Also, Greenland. I mean, what kind of army do they have? What Denmark? We support them. We're their allies. I mean, so I don't see, I mean, the catalyst here. I mean, if we bombs start flying over, Europe, whatever, that's the thing. But right now,
and I want to clarify: if the U.S. goes and takes Greenland, people are saying, "I said war. I said political war." Europe is not going to go to physical war with the U.S. over Greenland.
Correct.
There's not going to be bombs flying over the U.S. over Greenland. It's not going to happen. But it changes the landscape. Like, you think about the tariff war. If they go and take a Denmark country without Denmark's approval, Europe's not going to do any business with the U.S. whatsoever. It will just cut it off.
That's political war.
Exactly. So I'm talking about political. So I want to very much clarify here, because people just run within the chat and they say, Dennis said war. I clarified and I said political war. I also said, if China goes in Taiwan, now we're talking World War III. That's like, the U.S. is not going to just stand around and let China go grab all the chips. They're not going to stand for it. Not with Trump in power, especially. So that's a different scenario. But right now, the scenario that was being discussed last night by the President of the United States of America was his exact words: we need Greenland for national security. That didn't sound like we're going to do a deal with Greenland. It sounded like he's contemplating and figuring out how to go and physically take Greenland. Going to ask nicely, and if they don't ask nicely, it sounded like it was going to get more serious. So that's where it escalates to a political war with Europe. And tariff war is, and that's where it gets ugly. So if the U.S. goes into Greenland, I think the markets start actually getting hammered. So we hope that doesn't happen. Markets price in nothing. I've said it for years, but there is some writing on the wall here to maybe think about worries. So that's the whole, that's where I'm laying out. We want to get to CES, which is some fun stuff here. But
I just want to recap the trade ideas here, Dennis, real quick. Obviously, oil's getting a huge pop off this, way off the pre-market highs that, or the after hours highs that you saw last night. So, and I'm looking at CVX, and that had one hell of a day on Friday. So you got to think about the mentality that people are not worried about the super long-term ramifications. They have positions that they bought and they're rigging the register. You have to think about this. And then you got to think about the other side that, long-term institutional investors are saying, hey, this is now a catalyst for oil. Oil has been underperforming the market. Oil is value stocks. They pay dividends. This is something that I have to start putting on my long-term radar. So you got a tug of war. Short-term, boom, you're getting crazy pops on this. Are you chasing this up here? Are you buying CVX up $12, thinking it's going to 200? You'll have to make that decision. For the war stocks too, we're talking about a lot of possible scenarios here that could happen. We have no idea how things are going to turn out, but we're just trying to give you scenario analysis. The same thing, if you had these on for short-term trades, treat them like short-term trades. If you have them on for long-term trades and this is a catalyst you were looking for, then do it. But take your targets, take your profits, and right now, if you were chasing, you said CVX was up 16 points when we texted, you said it was up 16.
I shorted it up 16 points. I think it was up even more than that.
Yeah.
I went short up 16 points. That seems overdone.
And if
so
I've covered
it already. I'm no longer short. I've covered it. I took 6 points on the short.
Okay. And if you want to talk about an overall market reaction here, it's reacted good so far. What we see, gold and silver, good for Bitcoin. You're seeing the S&Ps, rally up. We're still in the green here. You don't want to see us roll over and go red today and end up red. We made a new low for the week on Friday to end the year. Okay. This is a little bit of, to start the new year on the 2nd. This is a little bit of reprieve. But I think that investors are going to be looking is like, if all this chaos and uncertainty is good for the market, then we should, then, hey, baby, rock and roll 2026. We're going to hold these elevated levels and keep on going, make a new all-time high. if people are skeptical about what this is doing for the political economic landscape, well, you may see some sellers come into this market.
It's all on the next move. That's why I'm just going to finish with it's all on Trump's next move. If there's no next move, the markets are fine. If there's a move into Greenland, it changes everything. So we hope that doesn't happen. Let's go to some fun stuff because we've been talking, about scenario analysis on war front. We aren't war people. We don't know for sure. Let's show you the chart here. CES starts today. This Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas. We laid out multiple trades here in the STN room. I was long NVIDIA through the weekend. We made this chart. It's a nice chart. Check us out. I bought a lot of these stocks through the weekend because they're presenting this week. So I'm long AMD, NVIDIA in the long-term portfolio. I bought more NVIDIA over the weekend in my trading account. Was long Qualcomm, Mobileye, a pile of stocks on this list just because they're presenting. The best one, and my best trade, which I just got out of some of it here already because it went nuts, is ARBE Robotics. So it's down there. You can see it on the right side of the list. They're there as well doing some presentations. The stock at one point was up 40% here this morning. So, I mean, these are predictable trades. The CES, like I was saying in the STN room, nothing is 100% ever, but I'm fairly confident a lot of these stocks are going to probably be trading up on Monday ahead of this conference. That is exactly what has occurred. So I'm sure a lot of people paid for their yearly memberships in STN just from us talking about this. ARBE was my best trade of the day.
ARB?
ARBE, ARB Robotics. It was $1 stock.
Huh. A little guy.
You can see,
like
bring it
that.
up.
Yeah.
Bring it
a little guy like that, huh? Okay.
The little guys go on crap like this. Like, look at the move it just had. Like, I don't know why. But I do know why. It's the CES. They're there. So that's what's moving the stock this morning. I've sold most of it into this. When your stock pops 25, 30, 35% because of an event that's coming up, that's a run up into the event that you take. I still have a small piece left, but that was a great trade. Also, I went long, a lot of these other ones. NVIDIA, if we go through the list, up 1.37%. AMD, Micron, I said it in the chat. It was up 2 Friday night. I said it's likely going up 10 because of the CES. It's up 10. So I know there's a few people that made money in the chat there as well. So Applied Materials, I went long. That's up significantly. I'm having my best day of the year right here, right now.
You're volatile, Dennis. Your trading's getting too
two.
volatile. You're just too volatile.
I just jinxed myself.
Yeah. Brad, can you give us a little bit of highlights on the big boys that are presenting today?
Yeah. So
bring the chart back up so we can look at that again because it's such a great graphic.
Okay,
Who made the graphic?
Our friend Michael made it for us. Thank you, Michael.
Awesome.
Here is a little graphic. So CES, the Consumer Electronics Show, it actually did kick off last night to the media. It runs in earnest from Monday to Wednesday or Thursday for the presentations. The event happens all this week, probably even bleeds over into next weekend. We are going to be getting some presentations on Friday, but they're kind of like secondary. The big boys that you were referring to there, we get NVIDIA today. Jensen Huang will be giving a kind of like secondary keynote. It's not one of the head lead keynotes. That's going to be at 4 p.m. Eastern time. We are going to be covering that live in the STN room a little bit later. And then kind of the first big feature keynote, one of 6 or 7 feature keynotes, is AMD's Lisa Su. She won't be presenting until after 6 p.m. Pacific time. So this is actually going to be after 9 p.m. Eastern time. I don't know that we'll be covering it over in STN then, but this is along with another one of our keynotes on Wednesday. We're going to be getting a Caterpillar keynote. This is actually kind of like the last keynote. If the last is kind of like the headliner, you have Caterpillar headlining the Consumer Electronics Show.
Crazy?
Is that not crazy, folks? But, you can imagine, Dennis, one of the big themes that you've really been stuck on covering this over the last couple weeks is robotics and autonomy. Yes. And so Caterpillar is, I imagine, going to be showing off how they are changing big farm, not big pharma, big farmland.
Autonomous construction equipment.
Autonomous construction equipment. Wow. Autonomous Caterpillar, cranes and tractors.
That would sell, because those operators make, 6 digits a year. Those operators, a lot of them make 6 digits a year. They make a lot of money.
Absolutely.
Like the good ones. It's a very skilled job. Could you imagine if they could do it autonomously? All those corporations would buy the autonomous one.
I imagine
you
it's
save
going to
yourself
happen.
hundreds of thousands of dollars just by buying one equipment and labor. This is again disruptive to the labor force, and obviously, big equipment makers don't want to hear this, but that's what Caterpillar is probably going to be previewing, is stuff like that. So the world is changing, folks. It may be changing, on the war front, but it's more so changing on the robotics front. And this, I still say, 2026 is going to be the year of physical AI, where we see like Caterpillar come out and show us an autonomous excavator. I mean, that could happen this week on Wednesday. That's really cool. That's a catalyst. Caterpillar was up substantially on Friday. People are like, why was Caterpillar so strong? Well, people, if you're looking at these lists, they're front running the CES is what they're doing. Going to be doing that on Wednesday. It's up again here this morning. So we talk about catalyst-driven trading. This is what we do in the STN room, is look for catalysts and trade ahead of it. These are catalysts. NVIDIA, AMD presenting. These are not. NVIDIA and AMD aren't like, oh my goodness, AMD's an AI play. But, there's some names on here like Caterpillar that you don't think about. So Intel also, honorable mention here, because they're sponsoring multiple, even though I believe they're not presenting themselves, they're sponsoring multiple events here. So they are on Tuesday, I believe.
Tuesday noon to 2 p.m. Eastern time.
Yeah. So Intel's a play too. Intel's up substantially as well. Lots to take in here. So, look at that list. We have it tweeted out, so you can go share it. You can, look at it. But it's a good list that was put together here of all the major companies that are presenting. There's more there as well, so some are not on the list. We tried to get as many as we could on that list. But, if you just go back to that list, look at what the stocks are doing here this morning. So let's bring it back up. We'll start with NVIDIA, up 1.48%. AMD, up 2.88%. Keysight Technology is not up, so that one's not trading up. Qualcomm, up $1. Mobileye, I'm long Mobileye, up 8% today. I bought it last week. Why did I buy it last week? Because I was like, well, CES is coming. There are probably going to be some people excited about CES. I bought it at 10:40. It's 12:12. I will probably sell into this event, because usually these are buy ahead and sell into it. These are trades. Caterpillar trading up and ran up on Friday. I got to really squint to see the next one here, because
let me see if I can zoom in.
Yeah, see if you can zoom in a little. I can make it bigger here too.
Not really.
You can just click it and make it bigger. CRM. What's CRM doing? Down, so it's not really there. Roku, though. Roku's a likely one. It's trading higher. Meta, I'm long. QBTS presenting. It's trading up 1.35%. And then you go to that right side list, like Rich Tech Robotics, up 4%. We just watched what ARBE did, so I went long Rich Tech too. SYM is not on there, actually.
I don't think Symbiotic is doing anything. One that you were interested in, Dennis, that I don't think we mentioned yet was Serve, SERV, Serve Robotics.
Yeah, is that on there?
They are going to be having their products featured at CES, but they're not going to be presenting, as far as I could find, and they're not going to be having their own booth. So, like our friend Michael was saying, something to highlight here is there are so many stocks not on this list. What you should do is go to ces.tech/schedule, which is at the top of this image.
See everything then.
And find the schedule and click through and see stuff that you might be intrigued by. Click into it and then find if there's a publicly traded company that you might want to try to get some exposure to.
Because there's a lot of other companies that aren't on this list. So we were highlighting the presentations, but there's all kinds of companies with booths there. So that's the difference is, with the booths there, there's other companies that have stuff going on. So think about that. One
final comment on this too, because I know we have people, we have new people come in, we have people with different time frames and stuff. This is just catalyst driven trading. This is something that we talk about a lot. After we get off air here on the STN network, some of these stocks, Dennis and I have in our long-term, portfolios and stuff. But this is not like strict fundamental analysis saying, here's the earnings. This is what NVIDIA is going to do. This is what this company is going to do. When do you have these kind of events, when there's this kind of attention, do CEOs come out and say something bad? Do they come out and say something negative about the company? That's a great
point too.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
What are they going to say? You know what he's going to say? We can't keep up with demand. We don't know what to do. We're getting orders and orders and orders.
Yeah.
That's what they're going to say, and that is what is going on. So
and they're showing off their products. So like we say, you know, and it's a great point you're making, Joel, because we say when you have an event, you know, sometimes people are worried about the earnings going to events. Sometimes people are worried about the event. Nobody's worrying about this. If you're these companies here, you're excited for these events because it's where you get to show off your products. So that's, you know, why the CES event was such a good, and for the smaller companies, this is their big chance to show off their products. That's why you get some of these smaller ones like this ARBE we were talking about. This is their big event. This is where they get to show off what they've got cooking. So people are excited about these things ahead of it. You know, does the rally sustain? Well, if they don't have much at the event or anything exciting, no. You know, and sometimes these don't sustain at all. But, you know, the predictability of this trade is the run up ahead of the event. And that's what we talk about with catalyst-driven trading. And with that note, let's go get Tim Quast.
Tim's going to be on in one more second. I want to make one final point.
He's getting ready.
Too, is what you from this. There are companies that on this list that are on everyone's list and stuff, but there are other companies that we might not know about. Okay. And if Jensen Huang or Lisa Su or these other people, and I'm just going to throw out a stock, ABC. Okay. We are working on a relationship with ABC, or we are in it. I'm not saying they're taking them over a thing. There, you got to, I mean, if you're short some of these texts, you know, oh, I'm holding this thing forever. It's going to, you've seen this happen with the big companies. Just a mention of these other issues, and boom, they could explode. So keep an eye on that too, and listen up, because it's gonna move not only these stocks. We have no idea if it's gonna be a sell the event for NVIDIA and sell into it, but it's gonna be a lot. So wow, what a busy day here. We are working on getting Mr. Quast here, Tim Quast. We are bringing back Market Structure Monday due to high demand here. So Tim is ready. We're gonna roll that intro, Brent. Big smile there. We're going to take off the mute button, and we're going to be ready to go. Good morning, Tim.
All right, I think we are. I think I can hear you guys. Happy New Year. You can hear me?
Happy New Year.
Okay.
We do. We hear you very loud.
I'm very loud. Yeah.
Did we get it? Brent, we just turned him down just slightly because
we get it adjusted?
We'll adjust on our end.
By nature, as you know.
We're bringing it back up now. Went too quiet.
We had a mic issue once again. I don't know. We'll have to get that sorted out.
This has been a technical problems Monday. Joel had a flood, and Tim's got a mic issue.
Oh, no. A flood? That's not
flood
good.
In his basement. A sink got left on and was flooding out.
Utility room, not in the basement, but whatever. Tim.
I was hoping it was a flood of cash.
No. Look, okay. So looking back onto, you look at the year, you look at your investing, you look at your portfolios. Looking back on 2025, you got some things right? We don't want to hear about that. But you can learn from your mistakes. What did the investing world, get horribly wrong?
Well, I don't know what everybody else got horribly wrong, but I could tell you what I got horribly wrong. So I always expected, particularly from about October 10, that there would be a shoe number 2 that would be the sort of equal and opposite effect from April. And clearly I was horribly wrong about that. It never happened. There were multiple points in time. In fact, you could go back to August 1, October 10, November options expirations, little bit in December. Each of these were points in time where I thought, well, that shoe could drop here, and it never did, which simply joined a long train of instances where I have been wrong. But on the flip side, our model portfolios did very well. Our core, we do these little focus portfolios of 5 stocks, and they're designed to, for retail folks. And our core portfolio was up 60% for the little over 60.4% for the year. All of the portfolios, all 4 portfolios outperformed. So that was good news. There's more to that story. And maybe, I don't know if you've talked about this yet this morning, The CES discussion is a good one. You just never know what's going to happen out of that. But here's the thing we found. After, call it October 29th, it became very difficult with any model to produce any kind of return. Our core portfolio topped November 25th. It's actually up 70%, but then it gave back 10 percentage points of that by year end. And if you look at the S&P 500, really, it has done nothing since then. So all of our gains came before, and nothing changed in the math. You know, we could go look at the portfolios and say, do we own different stuff? No, it's all quantitative. You know, if you held NVIDIA, Apple, Microsoft, and Google, just those four, all year, from January 2nd of 2025 to the end of the year, you were up 36%. If you just held, they're the sort of the largest stocks. If you just held those, you'd be up 36%, twice the benchmark. But I'll tell you, it's interesting to me. It's an intellectually interesting question. Why did the market stop performing about October 29? I don't have an answer for it yet.
All right, so using that, what are your expectations for 2020?
Do you have, first of all, Tim, before we go in, do you have can you do a screen share, or you're technically?
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
because we love to see Market Structure Edge, obviously talk about it, and a lot of people really enjoy, seeing, supply and demand.
Yes. Let me see if I can do this here. Where are we? Oh, there it is. Okay, it's moved.
This is
you get to my age and a button moves and it's a problem.
It drives me nuts. This is like my fight every day, is like the buttons are moving.
Exactly.
I'm allergic to change.
Brent, I finally got it figured out. Okay, there we are. Okay, so if we go to the, here, I just happen to have the mega caps up because it is one of the big things. And Joel, I won't forget your question about what's ahead. Okay. We have a portfolio on our the Edge platform that tracks the mega caps, 100 billion of market cap or more, and it's 130 stocks, and they're the top 15 or so, from NVIDIA to JP Morgan, and you will see that there are a dozen now that are $1 trillion. The weighted average market cap of the Russell 1000 is $1 trillion. It tells you how exposed money is to that group. I've talked about that before. The weighted average market cap of the Wilshire 5000 total market index doesn't have 5,000 components. Technically, it has, call it 3,400. But if you look at what the index actually holds, it's about 2,200. And the weighted average market cap is $1 trillion. So to produce returns, these stocks matter. And you might say, well, what about Micron or Palantir? They're in this group. But it's much more meaningful to everyone and to the benchmarks if Google is up 62% as a $4 trillion stock than it is if Micron is up 220%,
right,
as a $250 billion market cap, or whatever it is. It's called, maybe taking Lam Research as a good example.
Sure.
Another 137% for the year, but it's a 10th the size of Google. So these things are what determine the outcomes. And if we just keep coming back to it over and over mathematically, that it's true. What's interesting is the things that harmed our performance, meaning we stopped outperforming the benchmark in the latter part of the year, were the same things that helped it in the preceding, call it 2/3 of the year. And so I find that to be an interesting signal. I don't know what it will mean for 2026, but it's when you own something. I mean, you could have bought pick Micron. I mean, Micron dropped from, where is the price of Micron? Isn't it like 680? Let's just check that.
Well, 322. Yeah,
Micron, 322. Okay, so if we go look at what Micron did, which was the barn burner, the best performer among the mega caps for the year. So But at any point in time, depending on what your entry and exit was, you may or may not have been helped. If you bought it here, if the portfolio bought it here, I'm going to hide this thing. So, we like strong demand, generally rising demand at 10 and falling supply. That produces a very good return. We call it divergence. But if you bought it here and you sold it here, you did poorly. If you bought it here and you sold it here, you did poorly. So the very same stocks that helped you earlier in the year could harm you. Now, I don't know what that means. Does that mean that we're setting up for the same sort of thing happened leading into the 2022 bear market? I'm not saying that's gonna. I don't know. I just, we just watch the data and say when the things that have been working stop working, one should beware.
That makes sense, and that's how we trade all the time. Is things
Yep.
are in uptrends, things going strong, and then they break, and momentum breaks, and then we see the stocks turn down for a period of time, and sometimes they come back again. So
Yep.
I mean, the predicting of that is sometimes hard, but you have your predicting tool where you're looking, when things are overdone.
Yep.
That one question, I got a question for you too here, is a stock like Micron. Let's just go up and bring that up again here, because
Okay.
here's a stock that has just been relentlessly higher basically since April. In April, and I bought this thing, and I screwed it up too. I bought this thing at $81 back in April. I sold it at 110 because I thought that was a pretty darn good trade.
Yes.
It's $322. So
Right.
How do you hold, like is it a matter of just holding until you start seeing it change? And Micron's choppy too. It's a cyclical business, and
Yep.
if we look, over that period of time, it's when lots of 1s to 10s and stuff, you're looking at this too. I guess it depends on your time frame here, but how do you just hold on to your winners longer and ride these trends maybe, and not, because I joke, I always take the first bite and leave the meat for somebody else, which is, I would just hold on to these things a little bit better. I'd make a hell of a lot more money. How do you hold more?
Look, it's hard.
It's a tricky one.
It's a tricky one. You could look at the data and say, well, from a quantitative market structure perspective, the way we look at it, every time it's a 1, it's probably a good entry point. It doesn't work all the time, but tends to be true. But then when would you leave? Well, when it returns there. If you try to profile, this is to model, to back test in a very simple way when you should own Micron. You could see that if you bought and held it from August 26th to present through Friday, you are up 171%. If you bought and sold it whenever it went over 5, and then you sold it when it returned to 5, just below 5, you made less than half of that. I mean, 75% is a nice return.
Yeah.
And you could do it in 40 days instead of 90 days. That's a 90-day trading period across there. However, here, I often say buying and holding doesn't work like it used to. And you would say, well, don't the data just defy you here, Quast? In this instance, yes. But there's a reason why I say buy and hold doesn't generally work. It's because that's not the way the money in the markets is behaving, nor how the market works anymore. If you look at who makes money now, and it's converging, who are the high frequency traders anymore? All the strategies have converged. You have 2 Sigma picking stocks and running high speed models and running midterm models. You have Citadel doing the same thing. You have Jane Street doing the same thing, crushing it in market making and ETFs, very profitable business, but now doing everything else too. And so whatever the money is doing is what the market will manifest. And there's this convergence, but buy and hold is not it. That's not what the money is choosing to do. It's highly technological. Still, you would look at that and say, how would you determine what to do? And I would say for this purpose, for Micron, over the last year, clearly buy and hold worked better. The problem is you don't know when it's going to end. This is always the issue for all of us.
Yeah.
It looks awesome. It's like looking at the broad market. Very good year, third straight year of double-digit returns, and yet I want to make a point about the S&P 500. How what's the word I'm looking for? How absent from reality the broad measure is, and I'll come to that. So I would rather take the 75% that I know I can take at the risk of missing out on 171%, so that I don't end up selling this when it's down 50%. That's what you want to avoid. And I feel quantitative math does a much better job at that.
We love math, and we love Market Structure Edge. We are back with Market Structure Edge Mondays here on Pre-Market Prep. Tim, always great to see your smiling face, your kind demeanor, and your analysis of the markets. We'll be down you up next Monday. Tim Quast joining us on Pre-Market Prep.
Good to see you guys. Happy New Year. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim.
All
So
right.
many things to take away from that conversation. I mean, the buy and hold, and I guess it depends on what you're buying and holding too, because it is true everything that Tim just said. In the long term, you could have been buying and holding stocks like J.C. Penney, Sears, Roebuck, the companies of 1950 and 60. A lot of them aren't the company as of today. That's why the S&P changes its components, so frequently here to stay up with the times. And maybe that's the play if you're a long-term investor. You're just dollar cost averaging the S&P and you're not worrying about any of this stuff. But, if you're a trader and you want some more excitement in your life and you want to try to outperform the S&P here, you got to worry about the excitement here. And there's always excitement to have. Now, let's go quick look at crypto here, Brentster. Throw up the Hive banner here, okay, and we'll let you do the little crypto talk here. But I do want to talk about Bitcoin here just briefly before we get to our upgrades and downgrades.
Okay, cool. Hive banner on screen right now. We'll get the chart up there. Want to say thanks to our wonderful sponsor, Hive Digital Technologies. Pioneering crypto, pioneering lots of innovation, folks, here in 2025. But we are in 2026. So what will Hive do next? We will find out. Global leader in grid-powered data centers for Bitcoin mining, high-performance computing, and AI, operating with nearly 0.5 gigawatt of renewable energy. Hive, I bet, hit that 3% of the world's Bitcoin production by the end of last year. We should be hearing an update from Hive on that momentarily, not like momentarily today, but like I would guess in the next month or so. There's a QR code in the bottom right corner of the screen right now. You can scan that to learn more about Hive. It'll take you over to their website, hivedigitaltechnologies.com. Thanks again to Hive Digital Technologies.
Yeah, I just where Bitcoin getting a nice boost here. We'll look at the Bitcoin futures first and then go back to Hive. Consolidation station for a long time, getting a catalyst, whatever over the weekend.
Well, geopolitical risk increasing, Bitcoin as haven for that. But not only that, it's risk on asset. We have a risk on week with CES. I think CES is a driver of everything here because crypto is a part of this as well. There's going to be some people at CES talking about crypto. So, we didn't have it on our sheet, but let's be honest here. Crypto is going to be a big part of CES as well. There would be people talking about consumer electronics, and there'll be a lot of people talking about Bitcoin and crypto there as well. I mean, the chart here, Joel, it looks like it's putting in a hardcore bottom here to me, I bet. If you bring up IBIT, I love trading this vehicle here. It's my favorite one to trade, IBIT. And, again, futures, maybe sometimes not as liquid, but this IBIT is super liquid. So IBIT, that's my favorite one. 2.6 million shares already traded today. I mean, if you want, you're at the bottom of 46.68. So that's your stop out. If it ever breaches that, you got to say, okay, I'm out. But I mean, this looks like it's rounding, fish hooking, everything that I like in a chart. I think it's putting in its work. I think Bitcoin, may have bottomed in November. And now, you start thinking about IBIT maybe, moving up, getting up through this 53, 54 area. And then you start thinking about 60, which probably coincides up, getting over 100K. So, Bitcoin futures.
Perky today up towards the trading range. I just want to put IBIT coincides nicely with the 50, just under $54. You have a double top there. That's capped the market since late November. If you look at the Bitcoin futures here, trying to reclaim the 200-day, that those highs were made right around the same time. So you got the double top in the Bitcoin futures. Real quickly, going to the Hive chart here. If you're a fan of the 200-day moving average, well, it needs to retake the 200-day moving average here and work its way up towards the 50s. So let's take a look at crypto here on this Monday.
So upgrades, downgrades. We're going to try to do a new segment here around 8:55 every day. Obviously, sometimes time doesn't permit, but time does permit today. It's not going to get all these upgrades and downgrades.
No.
I've been saying this Monday is typically your biggest ratings day of the year. So I would expect a lot more notes tonight as well. We'll be trading those live in the STN room.
Awesome.
But it's typically your biggest ratings day of the year. Why? Because analysts are trying to get their calls out for 2026. They've been with their holidays. They've been on there with their families. They're coming back in. They get to work today, and they're getting their notes out there. So upgrades, there is just a pile. I'll try to list off and highlight a few of them for you because there's like 50 of them today. IBM upgraded Jefferies. That one's of note. Barclays also upgrading Mobileye, MBLY. I'm long both those stocks. Goldman Sachs upgrades Coinbase to buy. That was from last night. That's a big one there too. Areti upgrades Roku, ROKU. Grabbing Costco, getting upgraded. I believe it was a Mizuho.
Mizuho. Yep, Mizuho.
Oscar getting upgraded at Barclays, and also Mizuho. Costco is their top pick. Marvell upgrade at Melius. Intel also upgraded at Melius. Wow, there's just so many. Estee Lauder. This would make our friend Michael Burry happy. Double upgrade to strong buy at RJ.
Woo.
Melius also upgrading HII. CNI up.
What's a double upgrade, Dennis? What's a double upgrade?
Question.
From sell to buy. So they skip the neutral altogether.
Wow. In other words, 2 notches. That's where you get the double from, I think. It's because they're not just taking it 1 notch higher, they're taking it a couple notches higher.
Then downgrades. There's a pile of these too. Jefferies downgrades Adobe to hold. Adobe's just been in the gutter. It did have a little bit of life with the value rally recently here, but the Friday trade was just absolutely awful for Adobe. So now you get a little bit of follow through with a downgrade here this morning. PagerDuty downgraded RBC. They never downgrade that much. Domino's Pizza downgraded TD Cowen. RTX was downgraded at UBS, which I think that's a terrible downgrade because I think RTX, if we get any escalation in geopolitical risk here, RTX probably goes higher. So I'd actually be a buyer of that downgrade. Melius downgrade Uber to sell. That one stands out probably from the sell side, down 70 cents here this morning. PayPal also downgraded at Mones Crespi and Hart. So that's the highlights of the ratings there. Let's look at Uber just quickly here. I'm going to actually just open the note here for a second too, give you a little color. Analysts downgrading from Uber from hold to sell. Uber is very clearly the leader in global rideshare and delivery, but given that position, Uber has the most risk from increased competition, which was what I've been talking about, which is why I'm bearish Uber as well. Uber has attempted to position itself as a demand aggregator for new AV, autonomous vehicle entrants, with announced partnerships and investments as new tech ramps. Even with Uber's position, AV competition is set to rise in 2026 and beyond, which could erode return whether Uber partners or not. Uber's current valuation screens as cheap, but also assumes steady state growth with no discernible impact from a competitive threat. We will see, but if growth were to moderate and or further standalone expansion announcements from the likes of Waymo and Tesla were to come to the U.S. market, there is certainly risk that doesn't seem fully appreciated in the market today. I give this note an A+. I completely agree with everything in here.
Wow. I love the rating, Dennis. We're going to have to start doing that.
I give the ratings. F- to the RTX downgrade.
Yes, exactly.
You're rating the ratings?
I'm rating the ratings. That could be the new segment. Rating the ratings. You just
I love that.
Thank you.
That.
Rating the ratings.
Got it.
That's the new segment. You like it, folks? We just made it right now.
This is how
rating
TV happens, folks.
And we got a sponsor kicking in the background, but we haven't announced it yet for this particular segment.
Dennis, what was that last firm that you mentioned? Mones
Crespi Hart.
They all change their names all the time here.
Joel, that
too, so, yeah.
That reminds me of my old accounting firm.
Oh, do we cheat them and how?
Can we cheat them and how?
Can we cheat them and how? That was do we cheat them and how? DEWY.
See, this is You guys don't have a ton of bits, but that was like a bit that you guys they didn't plan this, folks.
So the ratings,
What's plan? What's a plan?
Yeah.
I didn't plan for my utility room to flood this morning.
We were like, I had to do the opening. I kind of butchered it.
You did good. I liked it.
What did he say? Can you
and
just
it snows every day here. Like it's like so 2 weeks ago, I'm up at Georgian Bay. I'm an hour and a half north of Toronto. And 2 weeks ago, we had almost no snow on the ground. 2 weeks ago. We now have 3 feet. 3 feet of accumulated snow in 2 weeks. And I tweeted yesterday. It literally snows here every day. It snows continuously. It never stops snowing. It's sometimes snowing a little bit and sometimes snowing a lot. But it is like snowing so hard right now. And the buses are freaking running. Like the kids' buses are running because what are they going to do? It snows every day. They got to go to school in January, so the buses just tough it out. I cannot believe it wasn't a snow day here today because it is snowing hard right now.
That's that lake effect, right, Dennis?
It is because we're right on the bay and it picks up all the moisture from the bay and then just dumps it. So we're like, if you're a Bundy fan, you know I'm a Bundy fan because I wear the Poke High shirt. Lower-Uncton. Remember Lower-Uncton from Married with Children? That's where Peggy Bundy was from. And there's always just clouds over Lower-Uncton. Well, I'm kind of right there. Clouds of snow just falling over me in my own town here of Lower-Uncton. That's what we'll call it. And I'm not from here. So I'm like, I'm not used to this. I'm from Windsor, South Detroit. And I'm used to your weather where, you get a snowstorm and you get 3 or 4 inches and everybody's like, oh my gosh, you went out today? Here are the 3 or 4 inches and nobody even slows down. Everybody's driving over the speed limit. Like they're getting speeding tickets on the roads because everybody's just so used to it. So I'm like driving like grandma there, actually going the speed limit, which people in Windsor would say I'm nuts, but I'm like trying to pick it up. There are people driving like 90 in the 80, like 100 in the 80. They're speeding
we
on
wouldn't
these
be doing
roads.
that. And we would not be driving
crazy.
like that in Canada. We would be obeying the speed limit.
We try our best. They did get rid of traffic cameras in Canada or in Ontario. Ontario had those cameras picking up at all the different spots, the automatic. Do you have those, Michigan? Traffic cameras?
Yeah.
Where they
I don't think so. No, I don't think
they had them set for 5 over. So they were just picking off. There was one gentleman who had 17 tickets show up in the mail because they just show on a statement because he drove on that road like for 4 days.
Didn't even know.
Didn't even know. And he got 17 because it had it set at 5 over. So like 55 in the 50. Ticket. Comes a week later and he's got like 17 of them because he drove by like that many times, just going back and forth. So anyways, Dougie Ford, one thing that he did good, I believe, is like, okay, this is just money grabs for the communities. This is ridiculous. Let's, put speed bumps. Let's put, maybe more, police officers in the sensitive areas like around schools. But this, just throwing cameras everywhere and picking everybody off is a bad idea. So they banned them in Ontario. They're completely banned. So I had to take them out, which I like. So because my wife has a heavy foot. Okay, that was the worst tangent ever. But I had 12 tickets in 4 days driving Toronto. So Dougie, you did something right. With that note, we're going over to the STN room. We're going to be continuing to talk CES. We're going to be continuing to talk war trades. We're going to continue to talk lots of trades in 2026. So if you haven't tried us out here, maybe give us a 7-day trial because you know what? 1 or 2 trades can make your year pretty quick.
Absolutely. All right, folks, we'll see you over there in STN.